I was hiking in the foothills of the Cascades, about an hour's drive east from Eugene, Oregon. It was a warm mid-April evening, the kind of rare perfect weather that makes you forget how fast darkness falls in the mountains. The sun hung low, painting the forest in deep golden orange light that filtered through the ancient Douglas firs and hemlocks. I knew these woods well. I've been hiking, fishing, and hunting here since I was 15. This was supposed to be just a regular after-work unwind. 6 miles round trip along a little-used BLM trail that most weekend warriors never bother with. Phone fully charged, headlamp in my pack, bear spray clipped to my belt, and a solid hunting knife in my pocket. Nothing could go wrong, or so I thought. About 2 miles in, I turned off the main trail onto a familiar narrow game trail I'd walked dozens of times. That's when I spotted the deer standing between 2 massive, moss-covered Douglas firs. A normal-looking black-tail buck. 3-point rack, healthy coat, strong build. He stood calmly, ears forward, tail relaxed. I stopped and slowly raised my hand in the universal, "I'm not a threat" gesture. In these woods, deer usually stare for a second or two, then bolt into the underbrush with that signature white flag tail flip. This one didn't move. He just stared, directly at me, without blinking. His head was completely motionless, those large dark eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that felt wrong. I took one slow step forward. His head turned exactly with me, smooth and mechanical, like it was mounted on a swivel. Still no blink. That was the first moment a cold knot formed in my stomach. Animals blink. Even predators locked in a stare-down blink. This thing hadn't once. I tried to shake it off with a nervous chuckle. "All right, buddy, you win the staring contest today." I kept walking, but every few seconds I glanced back over my shoulder. The deer remained in the same spot, but its head kept rotating to follow me at an angle that looked painful, far beyond what a normal deer's neck should allow. The uneasy feeling grew. The trail dipped into a shallow ravine, and for about 20 seconds the deer disappeared behind the rise. When I crested the next small hill, there he was again, now only 25 yards away, still not blinking. The orange sunlight made his eyes glow with an unnatural brightness, almost like tapetum lucidum reflecting at night, except it wasn't night yet. That's when I noticed the breathing. His ribcage rose and fell, but the rhythm was far too slow and deliberate. It looked forced, artificial, like he was performing the act of breathing just to appear normal. My mouth went dry. I stopped walking entirely. We stood there in complete silence, staring at each other. The entire forest had gone dead quiet. No birds calling, no squirrels chattering, no wind moving through the branches. Just thick, oppressive silence, as if the woods themselves were holding their breath. Then the deer took one step toward me. A perfectly normal 4-legged step, eyes never leaving mine. My hand instinctively moved toward the bear spray. And that's when the nightmare truly began. In one smooth, fluid motion, the deer straightened up onto its hind legs. The front legs lifted and hung loosely at its sides like useless arms. Its head remained perfectly level, gaze locked on me without the slightest flicker. The body stretched unnaturally tall, easily 7 feet or more. The spine curved in a way that defied anatomy, shoulders broadening, chest barreling out. It stood there between the trees like a man casually getting up from a chair. And then it started walking, on 2 legs, not hopping or stumbling like a startled animal. A calm, deliberate, almost human gait. Hooves stepping one in front of the other across the leaf litter and roots. The front limbs swung slightly, as if the creature was still learning how arms were supposed to function. Its head never bobbed. Those eyes never blinked, never looked away. They bored straight into me with cold curiosity. For a split second I froze, my brain desperately trying to process what I was seeing. Then pure adrenaline took over. I ran. Branches whipped across my face, drawing blood. Roots grabbed at my boots. My heart hammered so hard I could hear it in my ears. Behind me came the sounds, not the chaotic crashing of a fleeing deer, but a steady, heavy rhythm. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Hooves on dirt and dry leaves, moving faster than any normal walk. It was keeping pace with me easily. I risked a glance back while sprinting. It was still fully upright, weaving smoothly between the thick trunks. Its head was tilted slightly to the side, like a predator studying interesting prey. Up close, the face looked even more wrong. The snout too short, the eyes positioned too far forward, almost human in their focused intelligence. I ran harder than I've ever run in my life. Lungs burning, legs screaming, vision narrowing. I started shouting raw, wordless screams for help, hoping someone else was on the trail. No one answered. Only my desperate voice echoing and those relentless footsteps growing closer. When I finally exploded out of the tree onto the gravel parking area, I nearly ate shit on the loose rocks. I slammed into my truck, jumped inside, locked every door, and fired up the engine. Gravel flew as I floored it out of there. In the rearview mirror, I saw it one final time. It stood at the edge of the forest, still balanced perfectly on two legs. Slowly, deliberately, it raised one front limb in my direction. A slow wave, or a promise. I drove the entire way home at 90 miles an hour on winding mountain roads, constantly checking every mirror. That night I sat in my apartment with every single light on and all the blinds and curtains sealed shut. I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, those unblinking black eyes were waiting for me. The next day I tried to convince myself it had been a hallucination. Stress from work, dehydration, low blood sugar, anything. I even drove back there in broad daylight with two armed buddies. We found my footprints from the sprint. We found the exact spot where I first saw it. There wasn't a single hoof print. No crushed vegetation. No broken branches. Nothing. It was as if the thing had never physically been there. But the encounters didn't stop. 3 nights later, I woke up at exactly 3:17 a.m. to the distinct sound of hooves clicking on the concrete balcony outside my second-floor apartment. I sat there in the dark, pistol in hand, until sunrise. I never checked outside. Since then I've seen it twice more. Once as a reflection in the window of my office building in downtown Eugene, far from any forest. It was standing behind my own reflection, watching. The second time was in a dream that felt more like a memory. I was back on that trail. The creature stood inches from my face, staring without blinking, and I could smell wet fur and something ancient and rotten underneath. I don't hike anymore. I barely go outside after sunset. I've installed extra locks, motion lights, and I constantly check reflections in mirrors, car windows, and store glass. I catch myself doing it without thinking now. If you're ever in the Pacific Northwest, especially in the Cascades or coastal ranges, and you see a deer that simply will not blink, do not take photos. Do not try to get closer. Run. Run as fast as you can and never look back. I still don't know what it was. A skinwalker? Some ancient forest entity wearing a deer like a cheap costume? Or something that has lived here long before humans arrived and has simply grown tired of pretending to be natural? It knows I saw through the disguise, and I'm almost certain it enjoyed it.